150 miles northeast of Budapest, Mount Tokaj dominates the Hungarian plains. Within this giant triangle 40 miles long and 12 miles wide, the wine called Tokaj Aszu is produced. It's a very special sweet wine of great complexity and with an extraordinary history. For 3 centuries, it was the wine of choice for the European elite, the king of wines, the wine of kings, popularized by Louis XIV and the court of Versailles. It's born from vineyards populating the slopes of the volcanic Zemplin mountain chain. In the south, the Bodrog River delineates the vineyards, separating them from the marshes. These specificities are not superfluous. They define the terroir and the climate that will produce a singular grape berry, rare and extremely difficult to harvest. It's called the Aszu berry. In Tokaj, Samuel Tinon is the top expert of this grape variety.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I brought you some Aszu berries. Are these okay? They look good?
Beautiful. These berries are nice and fleshy. The sugar content is good too. They're very good. I'm looking for several things. First, that there are no dry raisins. They will make noise and prick my hands, so that's one thing. Then, the color. These are beautiful. Perfect. Purple. And so I feel there is good sugar content in these. And there is good material inside the raisin. These are top-notch. It's the secret of Tokaj.
In the early 1990s, after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of communism here, Samuel was one of the first foreigners to settle here when the Hungarian state opened the door to foreign capital to rebuild the vineyards. He bought the Aszu seeds for a British company and learnt the language. And Samuel never left.
Okay, you brought 190 pounds, so we agree. I'm very glad you brought me such beautiful Aszu berries. They're beautiful.
The Aszu berry is an exception. One waits for the noble rot to cover the grape. Above all, high sugar content is important, meaning a very late harvest. It's unpredictable. It can stretch until the beginning of winter. It's a necessary element, but it's also dangerous for producers.
In Tokaj, this is winemaker heaven. When he sees this, he mustn't jump at it. It's superb. It's the best. We mustn't touch them. They're very good. All liquor producers in the world dream of this. The women will be singing in 8 days if they see vines like this. Here are all the different stages of grape development in Tokaj, with the round and ripe grape as found worldwide. And here's a development of botrytis, which will allow the drying, the porosity of the skin, and a gradual drying up to the final stage where we have the Aszu, the berry. Aszu that gives its name to the wine too. So sweet liquor around the world generally uses up to this level of drying and concentration. In Tokaj, we have a magical production because we go beyond this stage until the Aszu. You go through so many stages of motivation and demotivation that after a while it becomes a grail for us because we are completely dependent on this production. The production can always escape us, right up to the last moment. And we can see it escaping. We're on the edge here. That is to say, if you have this, it exists. But if you don't, you have nothing.
Samuel left the large winemaking groups he worked for and who produced the majority of Tokay Aszu. He is one of the very few independent winemakers. Between September and the beginning of winter, the entire region is tuned to the rhythm of this one-of-a-kind berry. Many people depend on it. In the background, it's not large winemakers, but small landowners, merchants, local officials, doctors, like Gazika and her husband, postmistress and railway switchman, who harvest with the family, then sell their grapes.
The Aszu berry is always like that. You have to look for it. I didn't say we'd pick them all. Don't take the rotten ones. Take the ones that look like this.
2,000 families toward which Samuel invariably turns to find the famous berries. But rain at the wrong time or very cold frost can ruin all their efforts.
I'm glad to see you.
All this is good.
Definitely.
And there are others here. And that's all. I have not found any elsewhere, just here.
If it hadn't rained.
Yes, that would have been good.
That's life.
It's true. That's life.
This climatic scenario, the scenario we know precisely, is what we need. Sun first, then moisture. We need fog, we need rain, we need wind. We need a return of the good weather and the Indian summer and temperatures that are before winter and before the frost. This means the required conditions are very tight.
This Aszu berry, which exists almost by miracle, is inextricably linked to the history of Hungary and of Europe. In Budapest, on the Danube's banks, the parliament is a symbol of Hungary. But if it's the country's soul you're searching for, you'll find it in a wine glass. Mathilde Hulot is a French journalist and writer. Her life was transformed when she ventured into the land of Tokaj Aszu, an important moment in her life that she shares with the historian Christian Ungváry. Look at the color. It's beautiful. It looks like we've made a trip to Tokaj. I came to Tokaj for the first time in 1993. And the first thing I realized was that this wine is not only delicious, but it says something. Something very important. It tells the story of Hungary.
Tokay Aszu is a very special wine. There is no other alcohol, none I know of, that is like the national anthem of a country. Tokaj is nevertheless a part of the Hungarian anthem, which proves its importance. At one time, the most fashionable wine in the world was Tokaj, even if it's no longer the case today. Many literary works prove this. In modern times, from Voltaire to the Tsarina Catherine, from Paris to St. Petersburg, almost all European sovereigns were crazy for Tokaj wine.
Though it was forgotten during the communist era, no wine is as full of legends and anecdotes as Tokaj Aszu. Mathilde Hulot has grabbed onto these myths. She conducts research, writes its history. She also fell under the spell of Tokaj. Better yet, she moved here and met her husband here. Samuel?
Yes?
Is it going to rain? Did you see the weather report?
I watched the weather. A depression has begun in the Carpathian Basin, so it's a little tight. It's make or break, so we have to choose. What are we going to do in the short term?
Samuel has a few acres of vines, so he produces his own wine with Aszu berries he buys. and those from his own land. He is ready to wait for the last moment to harvest. This is also why he produces one of the best Tokay Aszu in the region. He is constantly on alert.
It stops here. We have this mist coming in. It wasn't here this morning. It'll dry. We're in the right direction. The puddle isn't frozen. And this morning's little frost wasn't so bad. We'll see in the afternoon if it hurts the leaves or not. After, the sun's going to come out, and there's no more clouds. So it's not bad. It's pretty good.
The Aszu berry is born from the mist. They arise from the marshes, bringing the noble rot, or botrytis. But in Tokay, you must add in the Indian summer heat, the wind that dries the grapes. A series of conditions so precise and uncertain that it takes a good degree of faith to submit to them when one is a winemaker here.
Here we are. There's the sun. We're just above the rising mist. We see the volcanoes rising out of it. What is Tokay? It's that there. It's this weather. There's a northerly wind, and it's turning now. It's going to turn. It's the humidity from the river, which is right there. You don't see it, but it's just there. And it'll go up the hillsides. It's going up because it started 30, 40 minutes ago, and there it goes up onto the hillsides. So that's it. You have to be patient here. The magic sometimes comes at just the right time.
Viticulture in the region didn't appear with the Aszu seed. It began well before, even if today nobody knows its origin. As to how the Aszu seed appeared, legend vies with the truth. In the 16th century, while Hungary was in the grips of the Ottomans, the Tokay region was spared. And it's the fear of a Turkish attack that led to the first delayed harvest and the discovery of noble rot. For Mathilde, this explanation is too simplistic in view of the complexity of the wine. In her quest for its history, she relies more on local documents, and she recently discovered a remarkable one in the archives of Château Rallier. So what's this document?
This is the first document that mentions the word Aszu. In 1571, a contract for sharing an inheritance was written. In the basement of this Garay family in Tokay, there were 70 barrels and 52 carts of Aszu wine.
1571. This contract moves the known existence of Tokaj Aszu ahead by 60 years. And the large amounts mentioned suggest that at the time, the sweet wine was already very sought after. Certainly, little by little, they realized the importance of late harvesting, and after, they sought over-ripening. They sought more sugar because it was valuable at the time. In addition, it allowed the wine to be more easily transported. Dry wine didn't transport very far, and don't forget it was in barrels. And in barrels, sweet wine with high acidity and high sugar content was transported more easily. So they sought these Aszu wines. The archives show the importance of Tokay. This vineyard, with one in Porto, was the first in the world with a geographical limit. Behind this appellation contrôlée, there is a family, the Rákóczi, including one of the fathers of the Hungarian nation, Ferenc II. Sarokpata Castle, formerly the Rákóczi family stronghold, is a museum in their honor. Mathilde met Edith Tamras, who runs it. What does the Rákóczi family represent for Hungarians? The Rákóczi family was the most important family in the 16th and 17th centuries. It owned almost all of Tokaj's domains. It also had strong diplomatic relations. At that time, King Louis XIV of France had a good relationship with Ferenc II of Rákóczi. And thanks to these links, the French supported the Hungarians' War of Independence. Louis XIV sent engineers and financial assistance. In 1703, the Hungarians are no longer ruled by the Ottomans, but by the Habsburgs. Ferenc II of Rákóczi takes up arms to win independence and seeks an ally in Louis XIV because he too is fighting the Austrians. To please the Sun King, Ferenc II of Rákóczi sends wine, Aszu, which he uses as a diplomatic tool. Tokaj is renowned in Eastern Europe, but still unknown to the court of Versailles. Louis XIV is delighted. And this is the famous Buhl cabinet? Yes, it was offered by Louis XIV to Ferenc II of Rákóczi. In addition to financial and technical assistance, the Sun King sends gifts, including this gem from the cabinet maker, André Charles Buhl, with secret drawers, tortoiseshell, gold, ivory, and silver. Louis XIV elevated Aszu Tokaj wine to a special status. When he drank the Tokaj wine on the table, the first thing he said was, "This is the king of wines, the wine of kings." And from there began the wide popularity of Tokaj and the Tokaj's fame, which continues until today. Tokaj Aszu became the king of wines. It was found on the tables of all the European royals. It accompanied major celebrations, inspired the intellectuals and artists. It contributes anecdotes to literature and music until the late 19th century. It is mentioned in Léon Tolstoy, Honoré de Balzac, and Gustave Flaubert. It's said that Rossini and Schubert couldn't compose without having a drink. Voltaire, who was crazy about this wine, it gave vigor to every fiber of his brain. For the European elite, Tokaj Aszu redefined taste.
Shakespeare said that in the palette of tastes, Tokaj wine was a new color. So for red wines, there was the color of Bordeaux, and for sweet wines, the Tokaj color. It's quite clear, quite defined, and it doesn't really date just from today. In 1896, the Hungarian government decided to oblige the bottling in white, clear bottles to share this color, whereas previously, it was always in dark bottles, which are technically more suitable for wine conservation.
Until the late 19th century, Tokaj Aszu is a kind of divine beverage, unsurpassable. But the wars of the 20th century come through here, and Hungary always seems to be on the wrong side of history. The expertise of Tokaj's winemakers fades, almost disappears. It's mostly in the 20th century Tokaj becomes associated with the country's history. The country will experience tragic events, since at the end of the First World War, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was dismantled, and therefore Hungary is left with only a third of its territory. It's hard to imagine, but to understand Hungary and the Hungarians, imagine that overnight, Hungary is reduced to what it is today. So already it is a market that will disappear. Then came the Second World War rather quickly, and for Tokaj, it meant the loss of its sellers and trade masters, since it was mainly Jews who conducted Tokaj's trade, Polish Jews. After World War II, the time is just as destructive, because there'll be 42 years of communism, with various stages of collectivization. And the leaders demand a Tokaj for the masses. The Hungarian state expropriates the aristocrats' land, nationalizes their domains, transforms the vineyards to make them as productive as possible, centralizes production, and sends all the wine to the Soviet Big Brother. The vast majority of the local wine becomes low quality, except for a few acres of vines used to make a Tokay Aszu for the nomenclature. At that time, the state also created a cellar, externally similar to all those scattered throughout the region. But inside, 283,000 bottles, including all the Tokay Aszu vintages produced during the communist era, plus the bottles seized during the nationalization of the large estates. Behind the mold covering the bottles, the winery today illustrates the difficulty for Hungary to look at its recent history. The communist legacy is too heavy, even when it's closed in a wine cellar. It belongs to the state, and for the state, regardless of the political party, the question that always arises is, but what do we do with this collection? It is always linked to the history of the country, because now we are left with a form of treasure. But what do we do with the treasure? Aszu remains at the heart of Hungarian history, a unique berry that Samuel shapes to reconnect with these exceptional wines. He still hasn't yet harvested his plots. The rain has started to fall.
My vines are up there on the top left, in the woods. We've taken 10% of the annual rainfall in the past 3 days. And, you can't, It's a little hard. That's how it is.
It may seem incomprehensible, but in Tokaj, after all the work in the vineyards, as elsewhere, the winemakers are completely at the mercy of a capricious sky. Up to the last moment, they wander through the void of their anguish and their hopes.
There, that's the problem. The sugar is now on the leaves, and we won't get it back again. This is the descent into hell, where you must remain, how do you say, you must remain humble. And the next year, when we come back to prune back, we ask the question, why should I do this? Do I continue, or do I throw in the towel? We're able to make the best sweet wines in the world at that price. There's no other wine region where you take risks like this and where you lose everything.
Tokay Aszu is an extreme wine. The strongest joys exist alongside the deepest disappointments. Over a decade, It is considered that only 2 years will go normally. 6 are uncertain, and 2 are lost.